Right.
Welcome to the North Shore Fire Department Board of Commissioners meeting, Tuesday, August 6th. Amy, if you can do roll call for us.
Yes, good evening, Commissioner Admin,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
He's working on it.
Present.
Commissioner Byers is absent, Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolham,
Here.
Chief Cowan,
Here.
Legal Counsel Matt Paxton,
Here.
Secretary Amy Oakley.
Amy, did you get any public comment in via email? Okay.
None.
Is there anyone on that would like to make a public comment tonight? I see Mr. Marin, you've got 3 minutes for your public comment.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I come before you tonight to ask you to please consider the questions. Why is this board pursuing an RFA? What problem are you trying to solve? Paul Hess and I met with Chief Cowan, and I thank him for his time and for his honesty. I asked Chief Cowan these questions. His response was that it would be easier for him to manage the department if he had a single board to serve. I see Chief Cowan's point, but that does not address the benefits for the North Shore Fire District residents. I do admit I misstated the retirement status of 2 Shoreline Fire Department members related to Shoreline and North Shore board members. I asked Chief Cowan if there were any other errors in the information I was providing. He said that he did not know of any misinformation. I reviewed the Shoreline and North Shore budgets with Chief Cowan, and he agreed to send me some of the budget documents we discussed. The bottom line, which I see as no disagreement, is that there are no significant savings for the North Shore Fire Department forming an RFA with Shoreline. Some have said that the RFA would be even better with Bothell if they were a partner, but even if this happened, there would be little, if any, cost savings, as the new organization would have to field 2 battalions. I presented to Chief Cowan, and I'm sending to each of you information that shows NFD would subsidize the Shoreline operations with the formation of an RFA. The NFD average assessed valuation is 13% or $108,000 higher than Shoreline. NFD is 30% of the population of the North Shore Fire Department of the North Shore SFD area, but requires only 29% of the calls for service. Applying a single tax rate across the entire NFD SFD area would result in an unequal taxation and benefit. With the current contract for fire services, NFD can set its own service level, control costs, and service quality. With an RFA, there's no NFD leverage to control costs or service level. The contract for service model allows for modification of the contract terms or selection of another contract provider if we're dissatisfied with the services. Formation of an RFA is a one-way street. There's no going back if promises are not kept or realized. Please look out for the best interests of the NFD area residents and taxpayers. That's your job. I see no benefit from an RFA, only risk. If you sincerely look at the facts, I believe you will come to the same conclusion. I'd be happy to meet with any of the board members of Shoreline or North Shore to discuss the specifics of my RFA calculations. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to make a public comment? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Amy, did I miss something or do you see anyone else? Okay, perfect. If we can go on to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Quick thing, we want to give it, we can do it probably within our activity report, but yeah, okay. We have a briefing on the strategic communications search for an agencies. I'll do that in my room.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Board discussion and possible action items. Chief Holstein, I have you down for the report from subcommittee from Station 54.
Okay, not much new to report. For 54, we do have all permits in hand and all the utilities have been cut and capped at 54. Have been
working with the contractor to find the date for demolition. There was a delay on their side, with a family emergency in Texas. So still trying to coordinate that timing for demo of the property, hopefully soon. As soon as I know, I will let the subcommittee on the board know those dates, just as a reference. And I think we're good to go here soon, so yeah, that's it.
I have a
Perfect.
question on,
Yeah.
where are we at? We still have the problem with the water from above. Have we done any work on that?
So as previously mentioned, we've had it inspected by several contractors, including they did some camera work. That there is some work probably to be done up there, but if we are not developing the property in any way, I'm not sure it's worth the expense, the significant expense that was mentioned, that was quoted from us from the contractor. So that if we can continue to have a conversation about that in the subcommittee level. And if that's something that you're interested in pursuing, we can look at getting that fixed. But I think there's an opportunity, to address that appropriately holistically if we ever decide to develop the property versus just kind of the isolated pipe issue.
But it's not causing any problems on the property with
The grass, the current grass to the south of the station is more saturated than it should be. But that is not solely through the break of the pipe, it is partly due to the runoff down the side of the library.
Mhm.
So to address the issue,
So, there we go.
to address the issue holistically, even just fixing the pipe, we're still gonna have some water saturation at ground level where the station's at because of the runoff down the hillside.
Okay.
So it would require a bigger project to address that creek and how the water is, how we could run it appropriately into a drain line without having it just saturate underground.
Okay, so we just look at it as for future development, but it's not going to degrade the property.
I don't think it will degrade the property, not just not from the break in the pipe itself.
Okay.
So, but yes, my suggestion, my recommendation after talking with the contractors would be to just wait until we develop the property in the future and address it there. I don't think there's any harm to the value of the property in the meantime. It is something that we can keep an eye on. We can pop up there every once in a while, once or twice a year, and take a look at things after, even in the winter and heavy rains, and when that creek's flowing a little bit more, and just make sure.
Okay,
But otherwise, I'm not sure it's worth the investment now, because I think we're still gonna end up with a water saturation problem from coming down the side.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, report from the RFA Planning Committee. Commissioner Pratt, I have you down for speaking on this, if you don't mind.
Sure. We had a meeting on July 15th where we spent time reviewing a potential organizational structure for the new RFA. We reviewed the finances that we'd also been presented with at the previous meeting, and we heard from two rather disgruntled citizens who were strongly objecting to our perceived lack of citizen involvement. But Chief Count, would you like to address any of those issues or anything that I might have missed?
Only to add that I believe after speaking with the chair, that we're thinking that in September we could have more of an open forum and question and answering session, because my plan is to try and get a draft document ready for our meeting that's coming up later this month, so that theoretically we should have a lot of the information, presented. The other piece to that too is to have we're hoping that we're going to have a capital facility or capital projects assessment done as well, to try and identify what those potential costs are down the road. So I believe that, and I spoke to Commissioner Fisher about this, especially after the last meeting of trying to have a more of an open dialogue, and a meeting in September so that people can ask questions and so forth. Other than that, I think most of the things have been addressed. We need to put together the document and address the finances or the capital thing or capital projects that Matt and I are working on. We're not going to know a lot of the information until later this year when we do the budget, because we're in budget season now too. Since we're talking about this as well, after my meeting with Dave Barron and Paul Hess, I started putting together, and it's not done yet. I was hoping to get it done before today. Kind of a summary of points and all that of what the benefits are and what they impact, and try to put everything in a document of talking about the pros and cons and things like that. It's similar to an FAQ, but I was trying to identify the different points and so forth, because I think there's some misunderstanding and not enough of the information has been put out there.
Well, and my understanding is we are just in the beginning process of that, so we don't have answers to all those questions
No.
at this point, so it's still in the discussion phases, so.
Yes, that's accurate, Commissioner Wong. We don't have everything buttoned up and ready to present to the public. And so a lot of the questions that would be asked would be, well, we don't know quite yet, right? We have an idea, we're working on it. You know, we've ironed out our governance structure, and a lot of the other big questions have been answered, but there's still some unknown. Anything from Commissioner Admin or Commissioner Wong in terms of questions for the committee?
No, not at this time.
Not at this time from me.
Chief Cowan, can you take a second and address the meeting that you had with the Kenmore City Council about the RFA following our last meeting?
Sure. It was mostly about the lid lift.
Copy.
And same with Lake Forest Park. But I did touch on RFA as well, just to let, you know, because there were some questions about that, even, you know, at their level. But it was mostly about the lid lift and just saying that we were in the process of developing the draft documents, and had a committee set, you know, together or put together to address it, and that we were looking, if everything worked out, that we were looking at next February for a ballot measure. Beyond that, I just kind of talked at a high level about it. There wasn't any substance, because I didn't have anything really to I was really focusing on the lid lift more than anything else.
And it seemed as if the frustrations from Mr. Marin and Mr. Hess were more directed at the lid lift than they were at the RFA itself. They kept talking about you know, the potential increases in taxes, and but it's not really an increase in tax. It's a rebalance of how we tax.
That's correct. And my meeting with David and Paul was, I would say it was more on the RFA, but we talked about both. We talked about the lid lift, and the need and the understanding of it, and the why behind it. But we also did start talking about the RFA as well. And you know, and I want to use that conversation to continue, you know, developing talking points and so forth.
Okay, so then Chief Cowan, discussions on the next steps for the August levy lid lift ballot measure.
Hopefully, in the next 3 hours, we'll have some idea. You know, aside from, I did get probably 2 or maybe 3 or 4 emails over the past month and a half, asking questions that I addressed. You know, unfortunately, the language on the ballot is what it is in the county, and people were, why are you raising it up so much? And I'm like, well, so I had to explain, you know, that we're dropping the fire penalty charge as well. You know, once I addressed it, it all seemed resolved, at least to me. a couple of people circled back and said, oh, thank you, I now understand better. Other people just didn't, like, okay, and so I feel like we addressed the issues. There wasn't a lot of marketing out there aside from what we did with the cities and their shoreline area news and Lake Forest, is it Crier? No. Is it Lake Forest Park? Crier? Yeah, they had a article on it too. So fingers crossed. Hopefully later tonight we'll have some good news.
Great.
I did have 3 different citizens come up and ask me about it and explain it, that we were evening it up.
Yeah.
How the
I think that was the number one issue was that they were, why are you increasing it
Mhm.
so much?
Yeah.
And so once I explained it, they were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, and specifically, I was at a $50 or, it could be flat. I mean, it could be, I don't know what it's going to be, but in the pro committee language, they were talking about likely to be, less than $50 impact, so, so I had to explain again, how that is computed, so. Hopefully.
Okay, and then if we're ready to move on, discussion on updating the financial policy. And I have Mr. Paxton and Commissioner Admin on this.
1,600, is that what it is?
It does not say right here. Let's see if it's on the last
I had
one.
it printed up, but I didn't bring it.
Amy, do you know if that's policy 1600?
6200.
623.
Thank you.
I don't have anything to report on that. I felt like last thing, this discussion was that Matt Paxton going to bring us back some recommendations or draft. He's like, I remember that we love this. Matt Paxton, do you have anything you want to contribute?
It has been a while. I know I made some suggestions at one point. I think you're right though, Commissioner, that I think the task is on me to kind of refresh that in everyone's mailboxes. It doesn't seem to be an urgent matter since this is mostly for large purchases and public works, which I don't think is a big pressing matter for you. But it is, it has been on our radar since the public laws changed.
Would you like to work with some of my shoreline staff to help with that, or are you good to go on your own?
Yeah, I'd be open to working with your staff to get that ironed out. Let me email you what I sent before.
That sounds good, and then I'll hook you up with at least 1 or 2 of ours.
The next topic is discussion on board DEI listening session.
Hey, this is me. So I, Liliana.
Mhm.
Liliana Aqua.
Yes, Liliana Aqua reached out about scheduling a special meeting for the board to have discussions and similar to they've done with Shoreline Board. And so she's just reaching out to see if that's of interest to this board and when to schedule that discussion.
Okay, start off.
Do you want a little
DEI?
background?
Yes, please,
Okay.
for everybody.
So let's go back a little ways. They did a department-wide, we had a DEI committee, they did a department-wide survey, asking the different questions.
DEI, let's start with that.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay, that's what we
Sorry.
know.
And so they asked a bunch of questions and then collected all the surveys. Kind of grouped the different responses, then went out to all the ships, all the stations. For face-to-face conversations about, what's going on, or, stuff that came up in the survey, following up with that kind of, those types of issues or concerns or whatever. And then they also, they met with the executive staff in a group, and then they also met with the shoreline commissioners as a group. Basically just kind of making sure that they get as broad a perspective as they can to, address any known or potential issues. And she asked me, and so subsequently White's and Brady, if you wanted to, have a sit down with them as well, you know, to go through and be able to provide your perspective. They asked, I think it's like 5 questions, and basically, you know, it's just kind of a managed discussion about different topics and perspective. It's not required, it's something if you want to do, it would probably take 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe could be less, it depends on, it's a smaller group, so it might go faster. But then again, people might talk, because it's a smaller group too, so I don't know.
Right.
But it's completely optional, it's entirely up to you if the board wants to. I think she was trying to make, from an inclusivity standpoint, making sure that you were included.
Gotcha.
And that everybody had an opportunity to, you know, provide some perspective.
Okay.
Did the shoreline board do it as a special meeting?
They did it as a meeting, as they started their meeting at 4 o'clock instead of 5. And they started with that meeting and then went into normal business at 5.
So if that was a public meeting, they recorded that discussion.
I don't know. If it, I don't think it qualified, well, I don't know if they did it as a workshop or not, I wasn't in the meeting. But and I'm not even sure if they had a quorum, I think they did, I think there was at least 3 or 4 that.
I'm just saying that, since I've participated as a shoreline employee in these discussions and they're, you know, they're not recorded, they take notes.
Right.
But I just, I don't know if they're really getting kind of people's
Maybe not.
informal, thoughts, you know, people could always also schedule meetings with members, maybe one-on-one versus a, you know, public meeting, people might be more hesitant to.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be such a great thing to, because people are supposed to be open and honest, and these are obviously some very potentially controversial or touchy, sensitive subjects to be talking about. So I'm not so sure, you know, a recording of this would be a good thing. I don't know if it qualifies. Maybe Matt can weigh in on this. If it's
It'd be
qualifies as
with a workshop, we don't have to work, we schedule it as a workshop.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be
I
recorded.
think they did it as a workshop, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Can we check on that? Because I'm really interested in doing this
Mhm.
as a group, because I think a group's better, because once you get some ideas
Well,
passed.
yeah, let's start talking about
Because
it.
doing an individual doesn't work the
Yeah,
same.
that's like,
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah,
Yeah, it gets the discussion going.
maybe as opposed to a special meeting, assuming that it's a workshop, I guess people could come in or something, I'm not sure how that works.
Well, you could just start at 4:15 or 4 or 4:30 or whatever, however much time you want,
Yeah.
you know, before the next meeting, if they're available. And you go that route.
Commissioner Pratt, are you on day shift right now? So that would be impacting your schedule and we need to do it at a different time?
We can do that.
Yeah, it's tricky for me to get away for a 4 o'clock meeting. Tricky to get to a 5 o'clock meeting right now. But if we plan ahead, I can generally make that work. I just get surprised sometimes with last minute meetings and things that pop up. So yeah, but I'd like to be involved if possible, and I think that the group session is probably preferable if it's workshopped.
It is 4 o'clock too early or 4:15 or 4:30? I don't want to stifle, I don't want to, I mean, it's up to you guys, it's entirely up to you guys. You can keep it at half an hour, if you can let it organically go wherever it goes.
So then I would suggest either a separate day for a workshop or after our regular commissioner meeting. So that Commissioner Pratt can
That's it.
attend,
I
yes.
think afterwards allows us to have whatever time we need. If we do it before, we're on the
Yeah.
time crunch.
Would you like to look at your next scheduled meeting then? And go after that?
I'm
Sure.
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
I'll tell them that it'll probably be at least 5:30, 5:45 if we have a shorter meeting, and I'll ask them to see if Liliana is available.
Okay,
And Mr. Paxton, is this correct that if we treat this as a workshop, it doesn't, it won't be needed to be recorded?
That's an excellent question. It's governed by your board policies as to whether or not it would be audio recorded. I'm looking at those now. And you'll give me a moment here.
So why I'm on duty on the 3rd, so there's a chance I would get called away or have
Okay.
something going on.
Okay,
But I have been able to participate from the perspective of employees. I have already provided my
input.
input, so
But here
Okay.
again, it is,
it's a different,
but it helps to have,
Different perspective.
right,
and it also
and
helps
gets that discussion going, so. Yeah. So, okay.
Commissioner, I don't have that information available at my fingertips. I'll follow up with the chief on that matter by tomorrow as to whether or not it would need to be recorded.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Mr. Paxton, does it need to be advertised as a special meeting if there's a quorum of commissioners? So it's a special meeting, but it's not recorded.
Yeah.
What we're looking for.
Well, typically the way we've done it in the past, we've advertised it as a workshop. You enter in, you open up, we're gonna, go into a workshop meeting and then you record when you come back out. It's kind of like an executive session. At least that's what we've done. I don't know if we've done it correctly though, but that's what we've done in the past, so that there's still a record of the meeting occurring and all that. It's just not the details of it.
Could it be none of an executive session?
I don't think it qualifies as an executive session. Because it's sensitive information, but I don't think it's protected by any of the, by the different subcategories. So, but the cities and boards go into workshops all the time. So I believe that there is an opportunity for doing it this way. I'll work with Matt and find out exactly what it, and the availability of Liliana.
And in terms of dates, like I said, I'm not guaranteed to be available on the 3rd because I'd be zooming in from work.
Right.
But if we did it the following week on the 10th, then we don't get the same efficiency. On the other hand, we don't have our meeting's not that much longer. But I would be available on the 10th. If we're trying to aim for a Tuesday, that's the only Tuesday that I'm not otherwise committed. But like I said, we don't have to work around my schedule, but that is my availability. September.
Why don't I throw out, I'll find out what we can do, find out Liliana's availability, and I'll send it out to you all. And if you want to move it to the 7th or to the 10th, sorry, that's up to you guys.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Maybe we just start with the 10th if you want.
Okay,
We're gonna have a meeting scheduled that night, so it's
Is that conflict with either of you guys?
I'm good on the 10th.
Commissioner Pratt, are you available?
Talking September 10th.
Yeah, so I think we don't start before.
Well, start at 5.
Start at 5 as a workshop.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay, so we'll try for the 10th. Thank you.
okay, so now we're gonna move on to board resolutions, which I have none. Consent agenda,
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 My mind just went blank. Motion passes unanimously. Sorry. Fire chief's report.
Is there any questions in my activity report? We'll talk about it up with that on.
If that had some questions. Okay. Just for you to elaborate on some of the different things in your report. One thing I was curious about is just what's going on with NEMCO.
Nemco? Yeah, well. Public. I would probably have a better update for you, within the next week or so of what's going on there.
Okay.
We've been working through trying to figure out a new ILA, what those specs look like and so forth, so. Okay. I need to confirm, I don't mean to be,
No, it's fine.
I just need to confirm some things.
I'm just curious. I was also curious about the Seattle medic thing, but we had scheduled that in our meeting. So,
We had another meeting this morning on it too.
uh,
I can, the most up-to-date version is that, I think we're really close to a draft, contract for us to consider. I'm sorry, I gave you a little backstory. So Seattle is extremely challenged right now with staffing levels for their medic units. They are routinely dropping multiple units, out of service. This is not only a problem for normal day-to-day responses, but also for special events. They have about 1,500 special events a year.
Ooh.
That they have to have, at varying levels, that have a presence at. So they've reached out to all the ALS agencies, to see if there was interest in helping them out. This has been something that's been kind of debated and talked about for decades. So it's, it's now come to a point because the fixes to their staffing issues are going to take years to address. They're down. I want to say it's like 40%. It's like almost 50%, I think. I don't quote me on that. So what we entered into is we've had 3 meetings, I think, on this now. And basically trying to figure out what we can do to help, not only with the normal responses, but also with special events. They started off with concern, trying to, how can they get medics to help with special events? But have proposed that they should look at also softening the border at 145th, especially if they're going to brown out or if they're going to drop the rig that's in the Northgate area and allow our rigs to travel south into Seattle, and to cover that way, as opposed to maybe dropping the rig in the core or West Seattle or wherever. So we're looking at trying to not only address the soft border, but the special events as well. And we have a draft contract that we think will be done by later this month. It's already gone through some legal review, but it basically be language so that we could, if we did send Eric Admin down to a Seahawks game, that there's a way not only for medical protocols and how they're going to operate, but also for full compensation, including benefits, so that there's zero impacts to the back to shoreline. We especially are also excited about the softening of borders because we have a lot of young medics, and so sending them to a special event doesn't do a lot for us. It puts money in their pocket, which is fine, and I'm all good with that, but we would also like them to get more calls and more experience. And so if we're going to help out, that's why we would like to do softening the border. In the meeting today, they asked all the agencies, well, myself, Bellevue, Redmond, and South County, and us. I mean, that's all the agencies. Is anybody in a position to send a medic to help them with staffing on a normal day-to-day operation? None of the other programs have extra medics in their system right now. We happen to have some extra medics in our system right now. We will till sometime early next year when we start having some more attrition. Looking forward to it. At that point, then we're going to start dropping some of our people off, and then we will be back down to, actually we'll be 1 short in our system by about this time next year, I think, ish. So there might be some things that we're working on both in special events, but also softening borders, and or maybe we staff up our reserve medic rig even with 2 and send the rig, some of these things we'll have to get figured out and get, details on, and discuss with labor. To make sure.
Funding too, I mean, how is that paid? Because that'll be overtime to cover those.
Yeah,
So,
We build this, yeah.
yeah,
we're building, it's all figured out.
okay, it will be building,
Build.
expenses would be covered, okay.
And Key County's been involved in this too, and the MPDs, so that we can make sure we're following the right protocols and so forth.
And we're not
So-
shorting our area either.
Well, the concern I have is that we're still having mandatory, I mean, this is a longer conversation, but I'll give you the short version. I still have some concerns about tapping our people too hard. We still have mandatories that are going on. I wouldn't say every day, but it's on a routine basis that we're still mandatory, and when I look at mandatories as a symptom of us not staffing correctly, for the department. Because we're forcing, no, you can't go home. I don't care if you have a flight to Tahiti later today, you're staying here. Because we have to staff, and so now we're impacting somebody's personal life. So I look at that pretty strongly, as opposed to offering overtime and they choose to accept or not. So for me, mandatory is a good litmus test of how we're doing on our staffing levels. So I am concerned about, to your point, Rick, are we overextending ourselves?
Mhm.
So that's something that we'll have to monitor pretty closely. We do have the flexibility within this contract to pull, even if we commit a medic to go to a special event or staff up or whatever we do, we can cancel it and pull them back. We can pull them back even if they're down there, say, you need to come home.
Gotcha.
Things like that. So we're working through all those issues. This is in front of us now because of the Seattle staffing challenges. And it's across all agencies. All agencies are struggling at different levels, for staffing. And it's in front of us because they're in that situation. But it's actually been building that way for at least the special events piece for decades, like I said earlier. We're fortunate, we don't have any special events, but everybody else does. Even South King County, they had six mandatories a couple weeks ago, because they have the White River Amphitheater, and they have other events in like down the Showa Center and things like that. We don't have any special events, so this has been something that's been building for decades, and now it's in front of us, and it's actually really good that it's in front of us right now. Glass half full. World Cup is coming in 2026.
Mhm.
It is gonna be crazy.
Everywhere, it's not.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere, and the estimates are, I think the estimate that I heard was 22 to 26 extra medics a day.
Mhm.
How are we going to do that? So now is a good time to not only set up the system, but to figure out how we can tweak it over this next year in preparation for World Cup.
So is this a question or a problem of not getting people to apply for the paramedic program, or is it a bigger thing as far as even getting enough firefighters in as well?
I don't want to go down the road of trying to cast stones at a different program, that's.
Oh, no,
Well, there are reasons why Seattle's having a hard time filling the
Okay.
medic spots.
yeah,
But I don't want, that's their programs.
Kind of side
From what we're
from
doing.
what we're doing here anyways. It's
So.
yeah,
I think they have I think that they're struggling to get firefighters too, but not like they are with getting the firefighters that they have
mhm,
excited and interested in the medic program.
got you, okay.
So maybe that's probably the easiest way to say that.
Right, and I guess the question is more of, like, even for our program, are we getting enough firefighters in and people interested in the medic program, or is that something we're also challenged with working on?
We have challenges, but not to the same level that the other programs are experiencing, even not Seattle, but the others too.
Yeah,
But for example, we wanted to send one more to med school for 2024,
mm-hmm,
and we didn't have one to send.
got you,
So,
okay,
but we, we're doing pretty good,
Yeah.
overall. But it is a struggle across the industry. So, you know, as we have a lot of younger firefighters too over the last
Mhm.
5 years.
Yeah,
As those people start becoming more senior and more experienced, they may be more interested in becoming a medic. You know, that's tough to say. But again, I think, you know, overall that we're doing pretty good.
yeah, I know some of those we can sort of see out a little bit, and I just didn't know if it was something that we were working on.
Well, and there's other programs that are now starting to adopt kind of what our approach with our post-employment medical benefits program, which gives you a better, you know, foresight as to when your attrition or when your vacancies are gonna come up.
Mhm.
So that's a positive for us. It's one of the biggest, you know, benefits of the program, to be honest. Which is also why we're heavy right now with the recent graduation.
Yeah,
And we'll be heavy, we'll start losing at the end of this year and then early next year.
okay,
And then and so we're up and then we'll coming back down
Mhm.
and actually we'll be one short of what we want of our staffing, so. It is what it is.
still close though, that's good.
Yeah, next August, we'll have 3 more from that.
Okay, oh, great, okay.
You sure? Okay.
Is this,
Do
Sorry, that
you
was a
have
long
questions,
answer.
Rick?
no, I'm good, but
Yeah,
is this where we should bring in?
So this might be where we want to bring in Chief Holstein
Yeah,
for
so
the next.
if there's no more questions about mine, I'd like Matt to talk about the capital projects, and then also we can start, both of us can tag team on our, but he's leading the search for a strategic communications agency.
All right, I just emailed this to Amy today. I apologize for not getting it to her earlier to distribute, but I'm hoping that she can forward the document to the board electronically, so you have a copy as well for Tyler and Josh, and then and if it needs to be posted or whatever, then do that too. But
Should be.
this is just a rundown of where we're at with 2024 capital projects that North Shore budgeted for. And at the end of the document, it's a projection of some things that we think are on the radar for 2025 as we're just getting started on the budget cycle for the budget planning. But I do recall the request earlier in the year of the board not wanting to be surprised by items as they might show up on the capital side of the budget. So this is an effort to address that concern a little bit. But I just went through the North Shore capital budget this week and just have a bullet point here for each of the items and a brief summary of each of the items that were budgeted for this year. Some of this might not be new. We've talked about a few of these items. So I'll just make a quick rundown through this, and if there's any questions, please ask. So there was $45,000 budgeted for a furnace replacement at 51. I followed up with PSR Mechanical about that. They confirmed that the furnaces are currently in good working order. We rolled over money from there was money in 2023 that wasn't used as well, that got moved to 2024. Looking at after talking to PSR and looking at the study from RCL in 2020, we feel like this is not something that we need to address right now, and we through our preventive maintenance program should be in good shape. Something we'll keep monitoring. I'm currently working to obtain some bids for a suppression system for the server room. So hope to have some of those soon to evaluate. We've already talked about the 51 outbuilding previously. That project has been postponed or stopped, primarily for a few reasons. One is that part of the reimbursement to North Shore to help pay for that building was tied with other departments coming to the station and having academies here, doing training here. That is not happening as much anymore. So that those wear and tear charges are not going to be income for us. So we need to reevaluate that way. And additionally, I'm currently working on an RFQ for architectural services for several projects between North Shore and Shoreline. And RFQ is request for qualifications, which is a kind of document that you would seek out or distribute for like an architect or an engineer. so they could share their qualifications for your projects. So if once I'm able to obtain that kind of architectural services contract, this is a project that we could formally discuss with those architects if that's something that we want to continue with. So for the time being, that money won't be used for 2024. Carport was the second part of that project that also has been postponed until the architect is hired due to some engineering issues that we identified in the parking lot related to the water underground or the vaults underground. So we want to make sure we get that addressed appropriately through engineering and architecture. We will most likely move forward with that project in 2025, separate from the outbuilding. One of the another item was an upgraded fuel tank for our generator here at 51. As you can see in the document, I sent out a RFP for generator proposal to 5 different companies through MRSC, which is the how would you want to describe MRSC? I guess it's the
Like a list you can pick from.
yeah, that's pre-vetted for government agencies without having to go to a sealed bid process. So government agencies will sign on to become a member of MRSC, allowing them to not have to go through as formal a process. It's already been vetted out, those companies through that MRSC. So 5 companies identified through MRSC received our request for proposal. 1 did not reply, 1 turned down the work, and 3 performed site visits, some of them multiple site visits and follow-ups with many questions. 1 company, after all that work, stated that they would provide pricing for the electrical portion of that project, but only if we hired a general contractor to manage subs that they felt they couldn't handle. 1 company has stated that they still have a quote to give us, but I haven't received it yet. And then one company did submit a proposal for $165,000 with a 40-week lead time. Obviously exceeding our expected budget line for that. So next steps would be to, I'd like to still receive that second quote that I'm expecting. And then based on that, we'll need to probably reevaluate or seek more quotes, most likely outside of the MRSC system. But still a project we're interested in, so it is likely to show up in 2025.
Just because we need more capacity.
We need more capacity. The fuel tank underneath this generator is only enough for like 6 hours of fuel. We have the large tank outside in the parking lot that would provide fuel to the generator for a longer period of time. However, the transfer equipment is non-operational, and we've had companies come out to attempt repair for that transfer equipment, and they say that it is obsolete. So even if we were, they say it's unrepairable. So all the generators in our system at all of our stations, all the shoreline stations have a 24 to 48 hour capacity for fuel. The belly tank under the generators, and that was the hope with this proposal, is to be able to put a bigger tank under the generator without having to transfer fuel from a bigger tank. So currently we have to do a manual transfer, which is a complicated procedure with the equipment that's currently in place. So we were hoping to clear that out of there, and if nobody is in the building, if they're on calls, the generator will run out of fuel, and then we're really stuck. So trying to think ahead, but unfortunately things are coming back exceeding excessively more expensive than we anticipated. So we'll be reevaluating what that looks like. We have a couple ideas. Most likely we'll be getting some more bids, but I'm not wanting to give up on that project yet to try and improve our backup capacity when we need it. Unfortunately, at the north end of the lake here, in my career, I've been on sites when Kenmore's been out of power for several days at a time. I'm sure all of you have lived that as well in this area. And that affects how we operate here at the station.
We're running into this is a common theme.
Yeah,
you know, that,
we'll keep going.
that what was budgeted in that study versus what reality is, and even what we think and what reality is.
Yeah.
Is
It's like
thousands of percent.
It's like buying a brass or a ladder truck.
Yeah, so,
Briefly, I put in that, there was money budgeted for new mattresses and recliners at 51. They were the age of the station 2011 when we moved in. So those have all been purchased and are in place. We already talked about 54. We are not doing the money budgeted for station 54 initially was with the intent to repair the building or remodel it or do something there. But we are just using that line item to conduct a demolition of the station. 57 continues to be the biggest concern I have as far as these capital projects. The generator in place is not in good shape. You can see the summary of this, the same 5 companies that I reached out to. I'm still expecting 2 quotes, but I have a feeling they are both going to be over the money the amount that we budgeted. So once I get an update on that, we will make some decisions if we need to make further quotes, or if they're both very similar, that we believe that that's actually what we're looking at. We do that's a strong recommendation that we do need to move forward with that project in some capacity sooner rather than later.
I would like to add on this because this is something that we have to do. This is not an option. Again, that's the study said 8,000 and we're gonna be over 100.
That study was done, what, 6-7 years ago before COVID? 21,
Well,
before COVID, yeah, before the,
So, but my issue with this is that we're not getting any bids.
yeah,
We need to figure out how we're going to get this done.
Yeah, so I think, again, I feel confident that we're gonna get 2 bids from this MRSC process, but we might need to go outside of MRSC to the sealed bid process, which is gonna take us quite a bit of extra work and time. So we'll have to evaluate that against what these numbers show up for in these 2 bids and maybe have a further conversation about that. But again, based on how everything else is coming back in some of the shoreline projects, I'm expecting it to be significantly higher than what was initially budgeted.
Just that there's a limited supply of contractors who can do this kind of work.
Rick and I were talking about this, but I think it's a combination of a number of things. I think it's supply, parts and all this. I think it's labor costs. I think it's the demand on all these companies that they don't want to do the work unless they're making a huge profit margin.
MSRC has a limited group. And by doing that, we're trying to save money that we're not doing real.
So it makes it easier to get the bids theoretically, but it is a much more limited exposure to the world of contractors.
And these groups, because they're already approved there, have lots of options of what work they're doing. They have leverage, and so I think we might, on a couple of these projects, need to go the full, do the full system, get it. And do we have to get an architect involved in that, or do we have somebody involved that can set up the
A couple of these companies can manage that as a general contractor.
design, build, and do that?
Yeah, we have also, one of the electricians that we work with on a regular basis, I work with him, we've got, over the last month, we've been doing an electrical study for usage, at 57 to collect that data, to verify that the size of generator that we want to put in there is accurate to how much we are using on a regular basis there. Obviously, this is summertime and not winter.
right.
But it's air conditioning versus heating, so the hope is that there's some that translates fairly evenly there. But that's giving us good data to help kind of feel like we're getting the right size generator for that. But these couple companies that I'm expecting a bid from can manage any subs that they would need to bring in, is my understanding. So they will list what is included in the bid and what is not included. We will look over what is not included with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we're not responsible for more than we feel comfortable with. Additionally, it's not just placing the generator in place, it's removing the old generator and upgrading the more circuits to hook to the generator. Right now, only about 50% of station 57 runs on the generator. When I worked down there in my career, we would need to run extension cords around the station for circuits that were run by the generator when we were on emergency power, and it's not like this station or some of our other stations that just run normally, so. So that's a piece.
I happened to be on duty there one day when power went out and the generator kicked on, and then the generator failed. And we had to have the department mechanic happen to be stopping by and got it operational again.
Cool.
But yeah, that thing is not reliable.
It's not reliable. He's Patrick, who is our generator repair person in maintenance. He's very nervous about winter
Yeah.
with that generator, to the extent that we've looked at bringing in a portable generator for the winter, but the expense of that, just like everything else, is a lot. So
There are some pretty huge portable generators out there.
But yeah,
I'm sorry.
but it's making the disconnect and all that is a huge chunk of change.
So at this point, I'm still trying to chase down every avenue. I'll continue to update you on this, but this is probably, out of everything on this list, my biggest concern. Station 57 HVAC. So as I dug into this project, and we discussed it last year at budget time, I ended up bringing in PSR Mechanical, who has done some of our repair work for 57. We discussed that, that's the scope of this project with them. And based on that meeting with 6 or 7 of us at that meeting, we determined that the best next steps would be to have, this would be one of the projects for the architect and engineers to put together a whole proposal that we would then send out to HVAC companies to bid on. And I also discovered through this process that Station 57 actually did not have a contract for preventive maintenance with any HVAC companies. We did have, I guess PSR was getting called in for repairs on occasion for things happening at 57. So since then, I've signed a contract with PSR Mechanical, who also does the work here at 51, to do quarterly and semi-annual maintenance at 57. So that is helping, I think, extend the life of the 30-plus-year-old original HVAC equipment in that station. Hopefully that's going to extend that the life of that equipment long enough to complete that architectural evaluation and put that proposal together. So my request, most likely in the 25 budget, would be to roll some of that money over to 25 if you're not using it in 24. There's a little update on IT equipment and apparatus that you can see there. I just wanted to add that in, other than facility stuff. The AV upgrades have been fully completed for this room and upstairs. We've purchased the modems that we budgeted for the vehicles with one spare. We've installed some additional security cameras at 51 and 57 that we had some blind spots from, and some electronic door locks to help with our security at our station. I did not put it in the list at the end of the document, but most likely we will be adding some more electronic door locks in the capital request for 25. The apparatus update, the new BC rig is in service. It's been great, as well as the new utility truck that has been great too. That brings us to the end of the document. Like I said, this part of this was to not surprise you with 2025 capital request. So at this point, again, we are just starting the budget process, but what I know after reviewing 2024 and looking ahead to 2025 is there are some things that I will be putting into a request for capital projects. That'll include the 51 carport and the 57 HVAC as we work through architectural services for what that looks like, to determine if we're going to actually do the work in most likely doing the work in 2026 and the architectural work in 2025. First Arriving is a company that provides digital dashboards. So it's these kind of your monitors that you see here, or basically a small television would be installed at each station. South County Fire has, for example, so does Puget Sound Fire and South King. They use the same system. They put two TVs or 2 monitors in each station that has a sorry, I'm not an IT guy, I don't know what but like a modem or a piece of equipment, the first arriving.
What's the purpose of it?
So, it's like a PowerPoint presentation of everything going on in the department. So currently in our department, we send out a morning document at the start of every shift that has what's going on with facilities, what's going on with fleet, what rigs need to go to the shop, what the training is for the day, what is happening administratively, if there's any updates on policy, special events, things like that, to try and keep the crews updated. This would take that information and put it up on a monitor that could constantly be updated, and a lot more. It would be more than just a Word document that gets sent out at 8 o'clock in the morning on the first shift of a rotation. It would allow training to submit updated information. It would allow operations or fleet or facilities or administration or really anything, fire prevention. Any area of the department could provide updates. It would blast out to all the monitors through all the stations and be I think a way to improve our communication from all divisions in the department to our staff to see what's going on and stay current on what's happening. So I can provide more information in the budget cycle, and we can talk about it more if there's more questions, including I can show you a couple demos of it so you can see what it looks like. That's interesting. Rescue 51 still 3 years away, so obviously I think that's already earmarked for continuing to save for that. The LED lighting in the apparatus bay was started in 2022 is my understanding, but not completed. So to finish that project and convert over to LED lighting in the bay will require some money. As we talked about, the 57 generator, 51 generator fuel tank. And then the last item is the 51 SCBA compressor well, it probably needs to be replaced next year. So I made there's quite an explanation underneath it about what's going on with that compressor, since that's kind of unidentified in other areas of the document. But I will give you a full report of the background and why we need to move forward with that and our recommendations for moving forward with the SCBA compressor when we get into the budget cycle. But just wanted to put that on your radar that that's likely going to show up as a request for 2020. Apologize that was long, but hopefully helpful. Got any questions on that?
Thank you very much. I appreciate getting that. I liked my wheels turning earlier rather than later, so thank you.
I'll get back to you on some things, but it's good. No, not at this time for me.
Well, let's start in on strategic communications then. I'll give them an update as to where we're at.
Yeah, have we talked about this?
So I'll give you a little framework then. When we budgeted for 2024, one of the things that we were trying to address was whether or not because we'd like to improve on our social media presence and some of our communications and so forth. So we budgeted about $40,000 because we were thinking of maybe it's a part-time position or maybe we're going to contract with somebody, but we figured it wouldn't be until partway through the year at least. And so there was some money, but we knew it probably wasn't quite enough. But to just start that process and see what we could do. So it's kind of one of those things where we don't know what we don't know. And so Matt and Rachel both took this on, which was really nice. They put out an RFP for proposals from a number of different companies, or put it out there. A number of 6 companies responded.
Yeah, so we sent it out to 9.
Go
ahead. Yeah, so yeah, Chief is correct. We identified that we had an opportunity to raise the bar with what we do. We
do better with our communications.
It started initially with some social media thoughts. We also had some meet and greet sessions with the public and shoreline that we realized that it's, while we scrambled the day of to put together some handouts for some talking points for the people that would show up to that meet and greet session, that there's a better way to do business and how we communicate internally with our staff and more importantly, how we communicate with our community. We are PIO, PEO at Shoreline. It does a good job of posting a lot of stuff with the pancake feed or the CPR class or whatever, but once we start getting into some of these conversations about or wanting to distribute information about the bigger items, the levy lid lift that was tonight, or an RFA vote, or if we decide that we want to build a station at 54 or something like that, we don't have the bandwidth or the experience internally on how to communicate out the message that we want to present to our community. We evaluated and put together a proposal to seek support from outside firms, basically PR firms that are also called strategic communication firms that can provide a very broad, holistic approach to how you communicate, right? And that is everything from social media to website to media relationships to handouts and presentations that you can give out to community, talking points for training your staff internally. It can also be crisis communication training, so that God forbid we have some sort of major crisis internally within the department, how and our staff ends up with cameras in their faces, how do we manage that, right? So we sent, as Chief mentioned, Rachel and I put this proposal together, sent it out to 9 firms that have experience in this type of stuff, and received six proposals back. We evaluated that, narrowed it down to 3. Had the executive team met with 3 of them on Zoom sessions to talk to them more, follow up with more questions. And we're still we're still going back and forth with a few things. Have not chosen one yet, but at the end of the day, very excited about the opportunity to work with these firms. It most likely will be like a 1-year contract, with the focus of helping us message how get that information out to our community, grow our social media presence in a way that they manage with the calendar and the analytics to understand how to grow that and get a reach out to our community. They have the ability to poll our citizens, which is something that we don't do, to get data through all Shoreline and North Shore and Kenmore are very diverse group. It's a diverse community, and polling approaches it with a research mindset of how to make sure that we're getting data and feedback from everybody in our community that might have a different perspective about the fire department or how we communicate to them and how they could support us or questions they may have. And they can help us with all of that as well. And that is very helpful, especially for things that are going to end up on the ballot or for an election. Especially as we go to an RFA, this is something that we've thought of in the North End. I think it's been discussed for most of my career, most of all of our careers in the fire service, and I think that we want to make sure we get it right as we move forward and share that information. So I think tonight the goal was just to update you that we're evaluating these proposals and hoping to enter into a partnership that feels right. And I have confidence that based on the proposals received back, that we will have that confidence, or that we will find that relationship that will significantly raise the bar and how we communicate with our business.
We can do better, and we're kind of piecemealing between on the executive team. The instance that Matt was talking about was my mistake. We set up an open house, a mini open house, just to invite the public in to talk about what's going on in the Richmond Beach area. And that afternoon, I was going to go down there. Actually, Matt was there too. We were going to go down there and just meet and greet and talk to people and see how people felt and all that. Bought some pizza for them and so forth. And that afternoon, it was all of a sudden, it was like, oh, we don't have anything to hand out to talk about what's going on.
Hmm.
So we got together and threw it together. You know, that was my fault. I didn't have the foresight, or it just didn't hit my radar. I was focusing on other things, or how I was gonna talk, or what I was gonna talk about, instead of looking at that. An agency that's focusing on this would hopefully lean into this intentionally. You know, for proactively, you know, like, for example, we try to get something out every, at the beginning of every summer about, make sure that you keep your windows closed, or you put a protective, you know, barrier so that kids don't push against the screen and fall out.
Hmm.
Or, you know, or that the rivers are still cold, you know, be careful about it. Those kinds of messages that we want better outreach. And to do it in an intentional way,
Hmm.
and instead of us scrambling and you know, putting together a little handout or presentation or something like that. So
Hmm.
this is something that we've identified for years now, that we can elevate, you know, how we're doing. So,
Has any other fire departments got this situation, have companies doing that?
yeah, it's the one company that, of the three that we interviewed, there was one that seemed quite a bit more talented and experienced, and they listed all the projects,
Mhm.
and they've done a number of things with fire departments. I will say that I think, you know, once we can get through this hump, you know, and get, you know, to a better place, that we may not want to keep them on retainer, you know, because they are expensive. But once we understand how we want to do this, and maybe we hire somebody to do it internally, or it's part of somebody's job or something like that, we can figure that piece out. It's something that we're looking, you know, just to try and figure out what we don't know
Mhm.
right now. And that, I'll be honest, when I was interviewing the three of them, I'm like, I don't know what they do. I don't know what we should be. It's just not my, you know, ballpark. So
It's one of those things we've learned a ton through this process, and we've realized that we've been doing this much, and how well we communicate to the public, when we actually have the opportunity to do this much, and it's pretty encouraging.
Did we have any money in our 24 budget for?
we had $40,000 allocated for something. We didn't know what it was, whether it was a half-time or part-time or contracting with an agency.
And so have we spent that yet, or is
We haven't
that,
spent any of it yet.
so that could go, but it's probably only a
That's-
percentage of what we need.
Well, we think that 40,000 might get us through the end of this year,
Maybe.
maybe. Well,
You
we're trying
mean
to-
through the
we're
end of
trying to
this year
focus
with
a
this
little
new company,
I'm
or
sorry.
would that be $40,000 for a new company for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we put in
bit,
money.
and then we'll budget for next year.
Okay,
You know,
that's
appropriate.
trying to get it out there,
Yeah,
so.
so we got the things, and we had a little bit of sticker shock, and so now we're kind of focusing in a little bit, trying to make sure that we're dialing in on exactly what we're looking for, and now that we know a little bit more. So, and we're trying to stay within the budget for this year, and then, you know, depending on what we want and what they come back with for pricing for 2025, we'll budget accordingly.
So I don't think that we have any commissioner reports. Mr. Paxton, is there a legal counsel report?
Nothing to report today.
Amy, the setting of future meeting agendas?
So the next regular meeting will be Tuesday, September 3rd at 5 p.m. It'll include our standard agenda items, which will also include an update from the subcommittee on Station 54. Is that needed?
I think keep it on there, because
Leave it on there.
until the demo part is done, we want to keep it. We hope.
Better.
Also an update from the subcommittee on the RFA committee, and then do we need an update on the levy lid list?
Well, it'll either pass or fail, and
Discussion,
we can, I guess you could leave it on there, just a place keep.
Okay, and then the revised financial policy, 6200.
And then we've got the September 10th meeting we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. And then
Okay,
Well, in the same.
okay, yeah. Okay, so if there's nothing further, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn us. Anything else? Okay,
you.
meeting
Thanks,
adjourned.
Yep. for being-
Thank you, Doug. It was pretty good, huh? It's-